I am really excited to share with you guys everything that I read in the month of May and then everything that I purchased to read in June. I have a lot of really exciting ones that I'm excited to share. This is just gonna be super casual. We're just gonna hang out and talk books, and it's gonna be great. But I have a stack of 5 books that I finished in the month of May, which I'm really excited to share about. And then I have a couple new ones that I purchased for June. I know it's already halfway through June, but it's okay. The dates will be a little bit off, but I think it's totally fine. I will just share with you guys some of the new ones that I'm really excited to read in the next coming weeks, and then I'll end up sharing some more reviews later on. But today, mostly, I'm gonna just share the books that I read in the month of May. Have some really awesome titles here that I really enjoyed. They're pretty similar, I think, in just genre type. All but one are fiction, like contemporary women's style, but I really enjoyed them. I don't think there's a single one in here that I particularly didn't enjoy. So yeah, I'm really excited. They're not in any particular order. A lot of them, you know, aren't even newer books. They're just books that I have, you know, had on my list for a while or just happened to stumble across. So I'm going to share you the synopses, whatever the word is, of the books that I read in May. So the first one I loved. I'm not gonna lie, I judged the book by the cover. It's called The Stationery Shop by Marjan Kamali. I hope I said that right. But look at that cover. It is freaking beautiful. And it really caught my eye when I was at, I think I got it at Half Price Books in Dallas, Texas. But the beginning was a little bit slower, but the book ramped up really, really quickly. Basically, I don't know if I'll be able to, like, you know, say it concisely, but the book is basically about a love story from, I think it was like in early 1950s in Tehran, and about all of the, you know, there's like a revolution happening there and all the stuff that's happening, and then, you know, eventually how this couple falls in love, and then they end up doing their own thing and then coming back, and it's just a really interesting book. It's really a beautiful love story. It's a really beautiful love story. I really, really enjoyed it, and I also really particularly enjoy those kind of books set in like the 1950s era, especially in, like, I've read a couple like erotic stories for Punjabi widows. The author who wrote that book wrote another book that is kind of similar and just talks about like Indian culture, and this one's in Iran or Tehran, I can't remember. But I really enjoy a lot of those kinds of books, so I really enjoyed this one. I would give it like a 4 out of 5 stars. I think pretty much breezed through it within like 2 days, so really enjoyed this one. The next one is more of a nonfiction book. I've had this one for a long time and finally got around to reading it. It's been recommended to me very often. I feel like especially when you're graduating college, everyone tells you to read this book, especially if you're a female. But it's called The Defining Decade by Meg J. and Dr. Meg J. And it's why your 20s matter and how to make the most of them now. Basically, it's talking about how like a lot of people overhype your early 30s as like the time that your career is like at the max and at its peak, but how your 20s are really important to kind of set you up for the rest of your life. I found it to be really interesting. I felt like it was a good, interesting read, and something that is like a pet peeve of mine about a lot of more self-help or like career driven books is that the author will spend a lot of time just like justifying their own achievements and like kind of puffing themselves up, and it's just a personal pet peeve of mine. I feel like it happens a lot, but in this one specifically I feel like it didn't have that, and it was interesting enough to read a good mix between like research and also personal anecdotes. So I really enjoyed this one. I would say honestly fiction books are my favorite, and nonfiction books I don't love as much, but I definitely found it to be informative, so I give it also like maybe like a 3.5 to 4 out of 5. So enjoy that one. And then the next one, so this, I feel like this book is super overhyped. Not overhyped, it's super hyped in general. Everybody talks about it. I feel like anybody, even like people who aren't super into reading, have read this book. It's Eleanor All Up In Is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. It's one of the Reese's book club picks. I think it was like one of the first ones if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that though. but I'd seen the cover so many times and just decided, I think I was at Target, and just decided to pick it up. It is more of that like British humor, which I personally don't super vibe with, just because I feel like I don't understand it all the time, which isn't anything against British humor. It's just that I personally sometimes, it's hard to catch on just because I don't personally speak that way. So sometimes, you know, the way that they refer to certain things, it's hard to understand when you're reading. And I find myself having to go back and read it multiple times to make sure that I understand it. But overall, I did think it was really interesting. I feel like you really fall in love with Eleanor as a character, and she's super interesting and really cute and like endearing in a lot of situations. She basically has a lot of, you know, different social things that she experiments with and meets a really awesome friend. I think his name is Raymond. Yeah, Raymond. And it's just a really interesting book. I feel like I read it pretty much, I think I had 2 flights in a row and read them like just on the flight. Overall, I did enjoy it a lot, but I'd say I think I had really high hopes for this one because I had heard so much about it, so I give it like a 3 out of 5. But yeah, that one's a good one too. The next book that I have that I finished a couple weeks ago is Happy and You Know It by Laura Hankin. So I actually picked this one as my book of the month through Book of the Month. By the way, if you guys want to check out Book of the Month, I will link down below. But I picked it as my book of the month, and then I had picked another one as my add-on, but I don't remember which one I picked. Obviously, I didn't get to it yet, but I think this is the book of the month for May 2020. I really enjoyed this one. I felt like it was just an easy read, but just kept you interested the entire time. I didn't feel like a single period throughout this book that I felt bored. And just an interesting, you know, I feel like there's so many housewife style books where there's a housewife, you know, somebody cheats and then she's stuck with the kids, or like, you know, more of that thriller type ones. But I thought it was really interesting, and it ties everything up really well at the end. I would love to have a sequel to this book just because I really enjoyed reading about the characters. And just all in all, I feel like the author did a really great job of painting that like picture, so you can imagine exactly what their homes look like, you can imagine exactly what their lives look like. And I always love reading New York's books based in New York, just because I don't live there and I don't think I ever will live there, but it's always interesting to hear about how other people live, and you know, just kind of the New York lifestyle. I always love those kinds of books. So I'd actually give this one like a 4 to 4.5 out of 5. I did really enjoy this one. Now that I'm realizing all of these, there's not a single one that I didn't enjoy, so that's good. And then the last one that I have for May 2020, I read right before we headed back to our trip to Dallas, and it's called The Hopefuls by Jennifer Close. It's not, I think it's actually a couple years old if I'm not mistaken. I want to say it was written and published in published in 2013, but let me see actually. 2016. Okay, so it's like 4 years old. But I really enjoyed this one. I really zoomed through it. I actually didn't want to take the whole book with me back to Dallas because I had already finished like 75% of it. So the day before we left, I zoomed through it so that I could finish it without having to take it on the plane. And I really enjoyed it. It's basically about this couple who, I forget her name, Beth and Matt. So Matt is like an aspiring politician, and Beth super isn't into that at all, but she tags on for the ride because they're married, and it talks about their love story, how they met, you know, how they got married, all that kind of stuff, and then follows their journey as he kind of climbs the ranks within politics, and talks about kind of the culture in DC. And then they move actually to Sugar Land, Texas, which hit home because my college town, College Station, is super close to that area, and I knew a lot of people from the Sugar Land, Houston area. So I thought it was really interesting. It kind of talks about from a northern, like East Coast girl, her experience living in the South, and just kind of gave a little bit more of an insight into the political world, even though I, you know, I'm the first to admit I know nothing about that. So it's really interesting to kind of hear what it's like to work for you know, presidency and in the White House and all that kind of stuff. Obviously it's fiction, it's not, you know, real life, but I found it to be interesting nonetheless. So I did enjoy this one. Rating wise, I give it like a 4 to 4.5 out of 5. I really enjoyed this one, even though it was like a super easy breezy read. I had a lot of fun reading it, and I think, you know, it kind of tells you something that I stayed up super late the day before a flight just to finish this book. So yeah, I did like this one, and I love the art on this one. I also, when I first started, we actually were having a beach day, so it's a really great beach read if you just want to plop on a, you know, beach blanket and just enjoy yourself. Super good. Okay, so I feel like I just totally zoomed through that. I hope you guys can actually understand what I'm saying. But wanted to share 4 of the new books I purchased for the month of June. And I totally just realized I forgot my book of the month pick, which I'm gonna go get right now. I will be right back. Okay. So the first one, I guess I'll start off with, this is my book of the month pick for June. And it just arrived a couple of days ago, and I'm really, really excited about it. It's called The Last Flight by Julie Clark. A really interesting, what is this called? Cover. If I remember correctly, it's a thriller. Yeah. And I'm really excited about this one. It seems like it's gonna be super interesting. Basically, it says, you might know a husband like Claire is ambitious and admired with deep pockets, but behind closed doors he's a temper that burns as bright as his promising political career, and he's not above using his staff to track Claire's every move. What he doesn't know is that Claire has worked for months on a plan to vanish, and it's super interesting. Basically, she switches lives with another woman, I think. Obviously, haven't read it yet, but I'm really excited to. But if you guys are curious, I'll add the link to this book so you can check out the synopsis to see if you're interested in it. But I'm really excited to dive into this one. I haven't read a thriller in a little while because I feel like in April I read a lot of like darker books, and in May I just kind of wanted a little bit of a break and just to read something more easy breezy. So excited to dive into this one. Speaking of darker books, I picked up In a Dark Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. Again, a Reese's Book Club pick, and I don't remember what month this was from, but I'm really excited about this one. It's supposed to be pretty scary, published in 2015, but I'm really excited about it. I, you know, haven't read really a scary book in a while, besides like, yeah, basically all of May was just kind of more happy fiction books. So I'm really excited to read this one. I think it'll be interesting, and the cover just is kind of haunting. I don't know. I'm sure you guys have seen it before. It's like on shelves everywhere. And then another one, I don't think this was a Reese Witherspoon pick. I think this might have been on another book list. Maybe the Oprah one, I don't remember. But I've seen a lot of people talk about this one, and it's The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I don't know how to say that. But I'm sure you've seen it before. I'm really excited to start this one. I've heard it was really good. One of my favorite bloggers, Caitlin B, mentioned that she read this one. By the way, if you guys are looking for, you know, any other accounts to follow with good book suggestions, she posts a ton on her Instagram stories, and I always love following from there. But I'm really excited to read this one. I've heard really great things about it. I actually don't even know what it's about, but really interested to see what it's like. So there's that one. And then this one, I was really excited about because, you know what, I cannot remember what was the other book that she wrote, but it's The Other Misses by Mary Kubica. I think I got this one off of Amazon. I think maybe I got served an ad or something, but I honestly don't remember. I just remember searching for a similar book to another one that I had read, and this one showed up, and I think I read the synopsis and was really interested in it. So this one I will definitely be reading next. Right now I'm actually working on The Vacationers by Emma Straub. So whenever I finish this one, I will probably start this one. I'm really excited about it. And then the last one that I purchased for June, I got this one off of Better World Books, which is one of my favorite places to find books secondhand, and you can get really awesome deals for really great prices, and they also donate to charity, which is awesome. But anyway, it's Mrs. Everything by Jennifer Weiner. I've seen this one everywhere too. I think it's been on a ton of different book club picks. So I'm excited to read it and check it out. I honestly have no idea what it's about, but it seems interesting, and I also just love the cover art. So yeah, that's, again, like, I haven't read it yet. I don't even think I've read I don't even think I've read the inside cover yet. But I'm really interested. I've heard a lot of great things about it. I don't know what it's about, but it'll be interesting. Anyway, so I feel like I totally just blew through those, trying not to make a super long video. But I hope you enjoyed, you know, any one of those. Maybe you want to pick one up with me and we can read something together in the month of June and we can talk about it. I would love that. If you've read any of the books that I mentioned from May or even June too, would love to hear your thoughts on it. Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? Did you agree with what I said and, you know, my opinion on them or not? Would love to have a discussion with everyone in the comments. But yeah, I hope you guys all have a great week. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye.